Hey Amit, thank you for giving time. Really, really appreciate it. And
Jeeve, thanks for having me. Excited.
yeah, yeah, brother, good. And just for introduction, as you've been an early Palantir investor, I think at the average price 7, 10, 11. As that early. You've been a big advocate of Palantir, its technology. You've met Alex Karp quite a few times. I've seen some of the photographs, and you talk about tech and finance very often. You're on your own YouTube channel. You're very popular on X. You know the company in and out, don't you?
I know a decent chunk about the company, I would say. I'm not I would say the biggest expert in the world, but it's been about 5 years trying to understand the
Yeah,
business.
no, yeah, I think I've gained a lot from your perspective, and I thought I'll just talk to you and let the viewers gain as well. Now, one thing very surprising is, especially in Asia, still a very popular company. It has become a very popular company, and as an investment, and there is a lot of confusion around it whether to invest or no, and I'll come to that later. But a lot of people still don't understand what Palantir does. Do you want to talk?
Mhm.
Do you mind talking a little bit about it, what Palantir does, so that people understand, what the company actually does? They know the stock is doing so well.
Yeah, 100%. I think at its core, Palantir seems like a complicated company, but it's really not. It's a way for organizations, governments, or companies to be able to manage data. Data is the new oil that we have in our 21st century, and in the age of AI, data is everything to be able to become more efficient, productive, increase your margins, etc. So Palantir has a set of different tools and softwares. Their core offering is called Foundry, and what it does is take different types of data in an organization that are siloed across different aspects of the business and brings them all together in what they call their ontology. And that ontology is a living, breathing mechanism, you could argue, for the business to be able to function, for people to be able to take actions based on the data that they have, get insights, and then ultimately become more productive. And at its core, the use cases of that stem to the point where there's an infinite number of different ways organizations can use data. So the question then becomes, can Palantir have the growth aspects to be able to get the Citibanks of the world, the BPs of the world, the DODs of the world, the NATOs of the world, to be able to essentially use them as an operating system, which is how I would describe them. You use Windows on your computer, you use iOS for your phone, you use Palantir inside of your business as an operating system for all your different parts of the business. That's what they are. That's how they've been able to grow over the past 22 years. And now the company's going to do about 4 billion in revenue this year after doing nothing back in 2010 or 2005. So it's become an incredible journey of them being able to take that core idea and bring it to the government and ultimately to the commercial sector as well.
So they have this Gotham, they have this Foundry kind of products which kind of help develop the product specifically for the government, for the commercials, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and it originated. So after 9/11, Peter Thiel, who is the co-founder of Palantir, he sold PayPal for $1 billion. And the idea was eBay bought PayPal because of fraud mitigation algorithms that they were able to build that eBay saw as very valuable. And so Peter Thiel's argument was like, hey, what if we could take these fraud detection algorithms and bring them to the government, use the same type of infrastructure we used to build PayPal, and help with anti-terrorism, because we just had a massive terrorist attack with 9/11. And that's when the government got involved and said, all right, let's see what you can build and see if we can apply it to different use cases. It ended up working very well. Took a lot of years for them to get it right, but the core product, the core idea made sense. And then they became a massive defense contractor working inside of the government. And then they saw the commercial application of what this could be like across the entire world for various enterprises of different sizes. And so now Palantir is really in their infancy of growth, even though the company is worth 300 billion. Obviously, people have seen the stock get a lot of momentum, but they only have 769 customers. I mean, this is a business that will have eventually 7,000 customers, which is why I think they're just in the beginning stages of their journey.
But when you went into Palantir, you were not. I mean, I think that was the kind of beginning of your journey. It was very brave of you to trust your hard-earned money in Palantir. What motivated you that time?
It's a good question. I think the naivete of not having a prior investing journey is what really helped me say that this is the company that I want to put I mean, because not even just my financial capital, which obviously was important, but I also didn't have a ton of money back in 2022. I was getting whatever disposable income I could get a month, maybe a couple $100s here and there, and just throwing it into the stock. What really mattered was my brand, right? Like now that I am a content creator, my financial position was substantial for me at the time, but my brand was being built off me being so bullish and excited about this one company. So if this one company did not work, there would be no Amit, because you kind of can't take that big of a swing and then it doesn't work, because at that point, people just have no reason to listen to you, watch your content, respect you, any of that stuff. So it ended up working. And I think the reason it ended up working outside of the company's amazing execution and what Alex Karp has been able to do is because the analysis of the company was less about the quantitative metrics, which matter when it comes to investing in a company. But at that time, it was about what is the story of Palantir? Like what do they actually do? Why is this valuable? Why could it be valuable? Who are the people leading this company? And why is it being so disrespected by Wall Street? And I think the focus on that story, that I, quite frankly, it became an obsession. And the content creator in me came up with multiple ideas. I mean, I was posting 3 videos a day, distinct videos around different elements of the business, because the company had so many different elements to analyze. I was actually getting a drink with a fellow Palantir investor yesterday in New York City. And one of the things he said is that if we were in our 50s or 60s, very experienced investors, there's no way in hell we would have invested in Palantir. We would have gone with Google or Microsoft or Apple, like we wouldn't have taken that big of a risk when it was $6-7. But because we didn't really know that much better, and we trusted our gut instinct around, hey, this Karp guy, he has some crazy hair, but the way he speaks about the world is very interesting and exciting, and I want to take a risk and I want to take a bet on him, that kind of attracted us. So I think the obsession with understanding the company, the belief that their software, which in a nutshell, my belief was that the software would be used everywhere. I mean, if you go back to thing early videos in 2021, the thing I kept saying was like, guys, I think the software will be used everywhere. And that started to manifest over the past couple of years, which is why the company got its momentum. And just the naivete of trusting in Karp and believing that the eccentric individual that he is would end up taking this to the promised land.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's something. But tell me one thing, with how did you manage your emotions when it was 10, 19, 25? I think the listing price for IPO was 41, 42, where I think Kathy Wood stored a lot of it and then sold later. It came down to as low as 7. And that's like emotional roller coaster, financial roller coaster. And what kept you going?
Well, so they DPO'd at 10. They got all the way up to 45. I started buying around 21 to 25. And then I saw everything collapse to the point where it got to $6. The way I kept going was very simple. I mean, like, first of all, it helped that the whole market was down. So it wasn't just Palantir, everything was down. So it's like, you're not the only idiot losing money. Everyone's losing money. Number 2, it's like when you're in that deep, what do? Right? When you're in that, like when you're down at the time, I think the most I was down was like 50,000 for me, which was a lot of money at the time, And so to be down that much money, you're just looking at your portfolio. It's like, well, at this point, it's either going to work or it's not going to work. I either take a $50,000 loss, or I keep buying, reducing my average, and believe that this is going to work out. And the healthy level of obsession that I had with the community. I mean, like people like Arnie, so many people in the community that I would talk with every single day of like, hey, does this make sense to you? Are they doing the right thing here? Like, there was such a crowdsourcing of information that all of us kept saying, all right, we're just going to keep buying in at $7-8 and, see how this ends up playing out.
And let's talk about business. Is it that solid? Your conviction continues in the business? I don't
Yeah.
see, it's still very American business, isn't it? There's no international expansion, or there's very little international expansion, if I'm not wrong.
Very little international expansion. There are definitely different things about the business that they have to improve. I mean, there's plenty of things I can talk about that need to be better. But the core product offering, I've come to learn over the past year. I've been to multiple of their conferences. I've interviewed multiple of their customers. All these videos are on my YouTube channel. Anyone can watch them. And when you hear the customer speak about the technology and what value it gives, I mean, Alex Karp, he has this really good motif that he mentions over and over again, which is that we take on the burden of value creation. So what does that mean? That means as a CEO, he's saying we accept the burden that we should not be paid as a company unless you get value. And that to me is very, very exciting as a business philosophy, because when you put yourself to the pedestal and say, hey, don't pay me until you like are forced to pay me because of how good the product is, it's very hard for people to undermine the level of technology and infrastructure you've built. And so from that perspective, their scale is very small at 760 customers, but they're going to do about 4 billion in revenue on 760 customers. And you got other companies like a Snowflake that has 10,000 customers doing relatively the same amount. So from that perspective, I think that their growth trajectory is very large, and the technology in and of itself cannot be denied based on all the testimonials I've seen, which leads me to believe it's not a question that they can't expand into Europe. They just had a partnership with SAP, one of the biggest tech providers in Europe. So hopefully that helps them as well. but it's that Europe is not conducive to them yet. Asia is not conducive to them yet. That can change. That's not a structural problem. And when that does change, I think it just leads to more and more growth.
Yeah. You said that there are a few things or a couple of things you can talk about which probably can be done better or improved. That's with every human, with every company, whatever great you are, whether you're Tesla, Microsoft, whatever. What are these areas you're talking about, Amit?
So I think number one, international growth, right? Definitely they have to do a better job being able to expand into Europe and meaningfully be able to accelerate commercial sales and government sales in Europe. So like Europe's always been that area where like they've had a little bit of a foot in, but they've never been able to really expand. So I think that's one of the first things they can do to expand the business. Number two is in the context of the government part of the business, they've done a very good job with the US government, right? Like really being able to become the operating system for the United States. The question is, can they do this for South Korea? Can they do this for Japan? Can they do this for Italy? Like, is there a world in which they can become a de facto operating system from a tech perspective for all these governments around the world? And I think if they can do that, it highlights a moat that because government revenue is very sticky and it's very deep. And once you get into the government, it's very hard to get out. If they can do that for all these other governments across the world, not just in Europe, not just in the United States, then I think that would be very productive as well. In terms of margins, their margins are incredible. It's hard to critique their margins. They have a rule of 83. Conventional software companies use rule of 40 to determine their operating margins along with their top line revenue growth. Palantir is 83 out of 40. So, they're more than double. And from that perspective, that's phenomenal. Top line revenue growth at 40%. I would want to see that get closer to 50, 60% to really be able to, ramp up the type of growth that is needed at this point in a hyper growth company. But outside of that, international growth to me is like the biggest thing. And if they can figure that out, then, I think they can get even more growth right now.
Because China is ruled out for them. They're not going to work in China. They've made it very clear.
Yeah, China, Russia, adversaries of the United States, they will likely never go there.
Yeah. Now, you started investing pretty early, right? And now it's like 140, the price. What are you thinking about it? I mean, the price sales is ridiculously high. The forward P is all the traditional matrices if you see is out of the whack, unbelievably, incredibly high. What are you doing now? I think let's talk about your what how did you handle this up? Have you sold something on top and booked
Yeah,
some
I mean,
profit?
for me, I like selling covered calls. That to me is really useful. Is covered calls a strategy where you can control 100 shares of stock by selling a call against it, and someone can pay you premium for that call, and you can generate some revenue. I sold shares back when it was in the teens, like an idiot, because I was like, oh, I made some of my money back. I should probably take some profits here. And I Palantir was my first stock ever, and it kind of forced me to realize that when you have a generational winner, you hold on to that winner, and you kind of let it compound, but I kind of am learning that lesson on other stocks that have done very well for me. But with Palantir, you have to kind of make those mistakes. I have a lot of friends that also, sold at 60, 70, and now it's at 140. They feel kind of done. I mean, Alex Karp sold a ton of shares at 30 and 40. Could have held on for a 3x. So it's one of those things where none of us expected it to compound this aggressively. Like we all thought it would be a big company. We didn't think it would happen in 2 years.
Mm.
And that is what surprised everyone. Like, no, because like at the end of the day, as ambitious as we were, none of us thought it would be a $300 billion market cap after being a $20 billion market cap 2 years ago. And for us to have that level of delusion is a bit irresponsible from an investing perspective, right? You have to be somewhat practical. This was absolutely not practical at all. And it changed the lives of so many people. But now the question is, can it hold that valuation? And that I don't know. What I will say though, is that to answer your question about how do we deal with the stock price right now, I'm not selling right here. I actually bought more at 120. I think the street's starting to realize that the growth is going to be so gigantic in regards to where the overall TAM is for AI, which I mean, it's getting to the point where it's tens of trillions of dollars. If NVIDIA has this much demand, if ChatGPT has 1 billion users, it means all of us are going to be interacting with LLMs every day, which means the enterprise government landscape for interacting with AI is just beginning. And although Palantir's valuation is aggressive at 300 billion, I think the market's pricing in a lot of that growth. And I also think people are just realizing they don't want to miss this story. It's some names you just don't want to be out of because you just believe the story is going to continue to proliferate. If they mess up on an earnings, which they can't afford to at this point, and I don't expect them to, given their execution has been so strong, the stock is going to take a big hit, right? Because you cannot be trading at these pricing multiples and then not hit your numbers. But if they keep beating and raising on earnings, I think the sky's the limit. And does the valuation still get justified if that's the case? Probably not. But the conventional metrics to justify a valuation using price to sales, price to earnings are just not how you value Palantir. It's never been how you value Palantir. And I think a lot of people are recognizing that they want to be part of the story. And if this dips 10, 20, 30%, people will buy that dip because they see this as a once in a lifetime company.
Okay. Now, I think there are different stages of investing. Amit, you have significant shares. I have some shares. Now, somebody who's hearing about Palantir and wants to get on this bandwagon. Now, is the price? It's not a financial channel for advice, but mostly just to kind of inspire people if they want to do something with their money. You think that what should a beginner investor or somebody who's missed out on Palantir should do? Should they accumulate? Should wait for correction? Or what's your take on that?
I think that everyone's investing philosophy is different. Buying at 140 right here, the risk reward is not like it was even buying at 60 or $70. Obviously not the same as when it was $10. If you have a long-term trajectory, like a true 10-year timeline, I think Palantir is going to be a multi-trillion-dollar company. So 140 is a great price.
That's more than a trillion.
Yeah, I think there's a world in which they get there. Obviously I think a trillion is possible, but multi-trillion seems to be the ambition of the company. And given how fast AI is going, I think there is a world where they can compound to that. It's not going to be easy, but if they keep 60% free cash flow margins to the firm along with 40% growth, which again, it's not going to be easy for 10 years, but if they can do that to an extent, they have a shot of getting there. So my belief is that, hey, look, either waiting for a dip is never easy because you don't know if that dip's going to come. Buying at all-time highs is never easy because you don't know if it's going to collapse. And so this is one of those things where the easiest solution I have is you can sell puts in the option market. You can say, hey, I'm willing to buy it at 120 or 130. I'm going to sell a put. If it gets there, I'll buy those shares. I'll collect some premium from the market to wait. If not, you buy some shares, sell some aggressive covered calls against them to be able to reduce your cost basis as well. So that at least you're making some money off the stock, even if it were to go down. But the idea that it's going to go back to 70, hard for me to imagine. The idea that it goes to 200 tomorrow, also hard for me to imagine. So it just becomes a question of how long do you want to own the stock?
It's about the time horizon then. Companies'
Yeah.
fundamentals are not questionable.
Yeah.
Now, you met Alex Karp, co-founder and CEO, a few times, right? Now he can come across as a bit he can be misunderstood, isn't it? I mean, he's not a very conventional CEO.
He's not. He's a very unique personality. Eccentric is what I like to say. I think he calls himself eccentric. Look, the thing about Karp that I love is that he can get people's attention. He can communicate in a way that actually makes people want to listen. And when he communicates, people care about what he has to say because he's exciting to listen to. He's interesting to listen to. He believes in what he says. He doesn't really deal with political correctness. Like if he has a political belief around free speech, he'll say it. He doesn't care what Democrats or Republicans think. And I think it's very rare to get a CEO who's willing to say whatever the hell he wants and deal with the consequences. And he's had plenty of consequences to deal with, but he doesn't care, and the market doesn't care either. He's authentic, is what I'm trying to say, and authenticity gets a premium. So I've been very humbled to meet him multiple times and have conversations with him. And even in those conversations, he would ask me my opinion for certain topics that he's thinking about. And so he's very inquisitive. He asks a lot of questions to kind of get people's perspectives on different things. I think he is the person to lead this company to even further heights, and he's always been the person. It was so silly in 2022 when people were like, he shouldn't be the CEO. It's like, no, like that my reason for investing is because he's the CEO. Like, this is the guy. Either it goes up or down, but he's the guy I trust to make this happen.
And what do you think drives him? What do you think what drives Alex Karp?
I've tried to psychoanalyze this many times. I think, quite frankly, his belief in Western values I'm sure there's a lot of forces that drive him, but his belief that America is superior in the way they think about individualism, free speech, the sovereignty of humanity, the ability to assert your values as more dominant over the West or over the rest of the world is important for him to reaffirm through his company's mission. Now, that sounds kind of egotistical. It sounds like, okay, America's the best, everywhere else sucks. But that's not really the argument. The argument is more so that in certain parts of the world, if you are caught dancing and you're a woman, you can be killed. America doesn't believe in that. The West doesn't believe. The West believes a little bit more in individual freedoms. And so that is an example to show that if you can exert those values on the world by America being the most dominant country and Western values being the most dominant values that are essentially imposed via technology, then you can have a much more safer world. And I genuinely think that's what drives him. I'm sure there's a lot of other things. He got a PhD in philosophy, so he thinks of the world in a variety of nuanced ways. He's not very a black or white guy, but from that perspective, I think he wants the West to continue being the West.
Okay, I think pretty much last question on Palantir before we move to another one is 2030, for example, we're talking about 5 years from now. What do you think? Like you take the time clock forward to 2030, and what do you think where the Palantir is? What are they doing? How big is the company? What
It's hard for me to give a market cap estimate. Co2 came out with a list yesterday, and they said they think Palantir can be about 528 billion by 2030. That would be a 10% CAGR over the next 5 years, which isn't very exciting. But then again, the stock is 20x in less than 2 years, right? So it's like a lot of the demand has been pulled forward in terms of the growth expectations. I really don't know. Could they be a trillion? Yeah. Could they be 500 billion? Yeah. Are they stuck at 300 billion? Maybe. I think the overall market is growing so much that if they can keep up with that growth, they will always trade at a very high premium just because people love this company. And so I don't know what the market cap will look like, but I do think it will expand from here, even if it doesn't 20x again, like it did over the past couple of years. And then in terms of the actual business, I expect Carp to keep running the show and the company to keep winning multi-billion-dollar contracts with the USG and with the rest of the governments around the world, and expanding commercial growth to international to really spice that up as well. And I just think they're going to keep compounding. And I think they're going to release new products on top of what they're compounding for different industries. And those different industries compounding Palantir as the like core operating system to me means that it's very hard to see them not becoming one of the most, if not the most important technology company in the world in the next 5 years.
Okay, what are the best sources, Amit, to understand Palantir more and to follow Palantir more?
I think their YouTube channel. Their YouTube channel has countless amounts of videos that explains exactly what they do. It's very transparent. It's not very secretive at all. So yeah, I would go to their YouTube channel.
Okay, cool. Now, I think you've interviewed Robinhood CEO Andre, right? I mean, and I saw your X former Twitter itself was 4 million views,
Yeah.
and it's a fascinating interview. In fact, I listened to it today. I mean, I started it some time ago, but I finished it today. Now, what got you invested in Robinhood?
Yeah, Robinhood was a very interesting story. I've been using this platform since 2018. It's the reason I'm investing. It's what got me into the markets. I mean, people undermine that you need technology that's simple to use to be able to even access complex financial instruments like stocks or options, et cetera. And I think around July of 23, I looked at the stock and I was like, I use this thing every day. Stock was trading at $7, 8 billion market cap, 6 billion in cash, 2 billion enterprise value. And I just kept asking myself, what if Robinhood is the answer? Like what if this is the next kind of company I've been looking for? And I spent a lot of time doing due diligence, trying to understand it. I got into Vlad's story as a CEO and co-founder, all this stuff. And then by December of 2023, I saw crypto really coming back in terms of Bitcoin. I think got to like 30K or something. And I was like, I kind of think people are going to use Robinhood to trade crypto. That was kind of like the initial thesis. And so I bought a lot of Robinhood at that moment at around 850. I put a decent chunk into it, particularly options, not stock. So it was kind of leveraged. And then by January, February 2024, the stock had gotten a little bit of momentum from like $8 to $14, which is good. $8 to $12, so it's like decent. And then Vlad decided he was going to take over the world. And it was just incredible. I mean, I've never been part of a journey where a consumer product that has been destroyed based on its brand, based on everything that happened with GameStop in 2021, and people hated the company, just pivoted to such a degree where every single thing they started to do was a winner in terms of product adoption, new features, etc. So I got invited to do an interview with the company. I was one of the only people on Twitter talking about the stock. I think it was me and Arnie. And Arnie really hadn't invested a ton of money into it. I kind of took a little bit more of a financial leap. And so I started talking a lot more about it. And Vlad saw my tweets. He sees a lot of content on Twitter. And that's when they reached out in February if I wanted to do the interview. And I said, let's do it. And, that interview happened. And then the company kept shipping more and more products. And now I think it's going to become the Amazon of finance.
And what kept building your confidence in the company? I think you're pretty bullish on the company even now, isn't it?
Yeah, I bought shares yesterday at $76.92. I mean, like my mistake with Palantir is when they began seeing a really strong level of momentum. I was a bit more afraid of the valuation. And so at 30, 40, 50, I chose not to buy because I was afraid that the valuation was getting too aggressive. And like, look, that's a reasonable thing for any investor to try to worry about protecting their capital. But when you have a generational company, which I can define in a variety of ways, but the best way to do it is nonstop innovation and a founder CEO. I think you need to have those two components for it to, and a massive TAM. You have those three things, you have a chance to, really invest in a generational company. That's when you just buy it. You don't give a shit about all the PEs, price of sales. You get more exposure to the asset. And obviously I could be buying high and maybe it falls 20, 30%. But the point is you try to get as much exposure as you can. And what gave me more conviction is that every month, literally every month, they are unveiling new products. That's just not easy to do. And based on talking to a lot of the Robinhood employees, I mean, Vlad works 24/7. This man does not stop. He is on a mission to take over the world when it comes to finance. I mean, they launched Robinhood Strategies, which is a robo-advisor, 250 million in assets and 75,000 customers in less than 2 months. Retirement accounts went from 1 billion to 15 billion in assets in the past year. Assets under custody went from 130 to 255 billion. They give you 1% to leave Schwab or Fidelity to come to Robinhood. So they're bringing over these massive six-figure accounts. Their margin balances went from 3.4 billion to 9 billion. I mean, like they're having a big crypto event on June 30th. They just had a Robinhood Gold event. They're going to have a Robinhood Active Trader event in October where they talk about their desktop trading platform. It's like they're going to Singapore by the end of the year. They're already in the United Kingdom and Europe. I mean, like the amount of just pure, constant, nonstop pushing. They're doing mortgages now. Vlad announced yesterday. You can get a mortgage with Robinhood. It comes to the point where you just realize, all right, so they're going for everything. And how exposed do I want to be to them? And for me, it's like I just want to keep gaining my exposure because I do think this is going to be, quite frankly, I think they can supersede JP Morgan's market cap, 700-800 billion over the next decade. Like I really do think there's a shot for them to get there.
So I think that they're what, $100 billion right now?
70 or 65.
65. But they have quite a bit of competition, Amit, isn't it? They have Webull and they have RBKR, all those competition. You don't think very highly of them compared to Robinhood?
I think very highly of them. The problem is when I've looked at those companies' growth rates, they can't sustain anything higher than maybe 15, 20%, if that. Robinhood's at 50%. Now, is Robinhood going to grow 50% forever? No. But what if they do? Right? Like this is the thing about growth stocks that I think we underestimate. And I've underestimated about Palantir as well. Like they just went from 13% to 22% to 29% to 36% to 39%. And a lot of us didn't think it would be that quick of an S curve over the past 5 quarters, but it was because when technology compounds, I mean, I've seen this with my social media audience. Like once you gain a following, it compounds and you can more even aggressively gain an audience and your TAM is infinite because, the whole world is on these social platforms. So I think the street is underestimating how much they're going to be able to grow, primarily because right now they make the majority of their money based on trading, right? So like people have to trade crypto stocks, options for them to make money. They are diversifying aggressively. They're going to release Robinhood Banking in September. So they're going to have actual banking products. People are going to be able to use them as a direct deposit, not just like for their investing app. Mortgages just came out. You have all this robo-advising stuff. Obviously, their net interest revenues are going to be strong as they collect more assets. So they have prediction markets now. You can bet on sports on the platform. Like, I think if they keep diversifying and expanding that diversification across the world, they will be insulated against the market crash. Will the stock crash if the market crashes? Yes. But will they still be able to recover and keep up those types of growth in the years where the market's not crashing, which is the majority of the time, right? We get crashes for about 12 months and then we kind of go back to normal. Yeah. And those will be amazing dip opportunities to buy because this is a company that is just not going to stop innovating.
I wanted to open an account with them, but from Singapore, I can't. And you said that they're looking to expand to Singapore. I would love to try the platform though.
Yeah. By the end of the year, roundabout.
Yeah. Uh, it's called a meme stock once, right? Is it still called a meme stock or something?
I think some people think of it as a meme stock. To me, meme stocks are stocks that are trading outside of their fundamentals, right? So they're valued at whatever valuation because of pure hype and momentum. I think that applying that to Robinhood is just disrespectful. Like they have absolutely all the momentum that's justified based on their growth. Same thing for Palantir. Obviously, Palantir's valuation is very aggressive, but they have the momentum and they're the only software company growing 40% right now when it comes to AI. Robinhood's one of the only financial technology companies that's actually growing and innovating at scale that has the operating leverage. I mean, this is the biggest things about Robinhood that people don't understand. Their operating margins are 40%. Like when 40%, when their net income margins, I think are like 37%. When basically 30 cents on every dollar is coming to the bottom line. Stock prices are based on multiples on earnings, and earnings are based on net income. And if you can create the operating leverage to be able to generate more earnings, you get a crazy multiple, or you get at least a multiple that is justified by the market, and if the rate of growth on that multiple expands from a perception perspective, you're going to get a stock price that reflects that as well. And Robinhood's been able to do that. So I don't think it's a meme stock because I think the hype is justified based on
Yeah,
the growth.
yeah, I think, and they're profitable also. They have earnings as well. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and but again, I know we talked about Palantir valuation earlier, about the Robinhood valuation. It's not as richly priced or priced to perfection as Palantir is, but it's just still.
Correct.
I was looking at price to sales of about 2021 times.
Yeah.
Uh, I think forward P is still okay, but I think the price to sales for a growth company, we look at it, it looks pretty pricey, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, you're paying 21 times sales, Palantir, you're paying 100 times sales. Like, obviously, those are aggressive. But then it begs the question, right? Like, does it have to come down? And
Mm.
I think the answer is no. It doesn't have, could it? Sure. Does it have to? No. And if they keep up the growth and keep up the momentum and keep this thing going, then it's not going to come down from the perspective of investors are just going to want to get more exposure. And that's where growth stocks, I mean, Tesla, right? Does Tesla really deserve to be at a trillion? Probably not. But everyone's excited about Robotaxi and Optimus. People bet on potential. People bet on the future. And if the future is there and the growth inevitably is going to come, people will pull forward that growth. And for Robinhood, the growth is here right now. It's happening. And same thing for Palantir. And that's why I think the market's excited.
Hmm. So I think Robinhood again is I think a couple of other questions side Robin when we kind of come to a conclusion. Yeah, so how do you kind of look at your investment philosophy? Amit, you've been a kind of a you made money, right? I mean, the assets which you bought have appreciated quite a bit in several folds. So how if you need to sum up your investing philosophy, how would you sum it up?
So I would say that I am looking for, I think the three things I talked about. I'm looking for a founder CEO. I'm looking for someone who truly is dedicated towards a mission of a business that, you know, he'd rather die than let the company fail. That's a big deal for me. Number two is I'm looking for a massive TAM. So with
Mm.
Robinhood, it's the $80 trillion of wealth that is going to be transferred from boomers to millennials and Gen Z that all are going to need a platform to invest that money. For Palantir, it's this AI market that's exponentially growing. So those TAMs are important. Um, and then three, I'm looking for healthy balance sheets because when I found Palantir and Robinhood, the balance sheets were pretty damn healthy. I mean, Palantir had like 3 billion in cash. Robinhood had 6 billion in cash. Their cash compared to the market cap to me is a big thing that I look to. It's like, do we have a real founder? Do we have a real mission? And then do we have the balance sheet dynamics, or at least the financial dynamics, for them to get a multiple and for them to use that cash in an appropriate way? And actually, one of the stocks I'm looking at right now, and I'd love to get your perspective on this, is Grab in Singapore, in Southeast Asia. And these guys now have a $18 billion market cap with 8 billion in cash. There's obviously some challenges to the business, but they're profitable. Adjusted EBITDA is going the right way. Free cash flow is going the right way. I feel like they have an opportunity to be a bit of an asymmetric play right here. I think they can get to $10 in about a year and a half. I think, and maybe that's too aggressive, but those are the things I look for. And their TAM is so massive because Southeast Asia has 700 million people, and so many people are just entering the digital market, and they need loans and deliveries, and they need to transport themselves. And so those are the things I look for and Grab as my kind of latest bet on if that could play out for them as well.
Well, that's good to know. And I invested in Grab some long time ago, and then it was one of the most expensive IPOs,
Yes,
and
yes.
and
It's
then
a very expensive IPO in 2021.
it
Very.
came crashing down like hell.
Yeah,
I visit Grab headquarters sometime here. I have friends here. It's just about 2 miles from here, and I think if you look at the servicing, the Grab, right starting from the app. I think is the best in
yeah,
Singapore. Uh,
yeah,
I think that the interface is so good. The pricing is a bit irrational at times, but they are, I think, best. Whenever I go to Indonesia or Thailand, whichever markets I go to, I mean, I rely on Grab. I
yeah,
don't take any other taxi. So I've not gone through their financials, but if you see the top of the mind name, they are pretty much top of the mind name. People who work for Grab, they speak very positively about the founder.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
the founder is actually a Malaysian guy, and
yeah,
it's kind of in Singapore. So I think I've heard a lot of positive things about Grab. So it might just be on the right trajectory, but it's just that sometimes you don't look around. You just look far, and everybody's like your own home. You ignore good things. Maybe I'm doing that, but I think the price point right now you're saying is 10.
yeah. Stocks at 450. I think a
It's at
doubling.
450 only.
Yeah, dude, it's $4.50, and I'm like, It was $5.70 in November of 2024 with worse fundamentals. Like everything has gotten better, but the stock has been dead. And so, in a world in which everything's high flying in the market right now,
Hmm.
I've been allocating to Grab because I just think that eventually the market catches up and realizes. Also, Howard Marks just established a position in Grab, which was
Oh, is it?
very surprising. Yeah,
Okay.
10 million shares. Howard Marks is not a technology investor. Grab is a tech company first and foremost.
Is it
And
that company? So
and
Grab is undoubtedly the leader here, Amit, in Southeast Asia. Now,
yeah,
how they crack things open, and how they go ahead, they're in a very formidable position. That's what I think. I didn't know it's 450. I mean, I might look into it next week. Thanks
yeah,
for
it's
telling
$4.50 and it's trading at 50% cash. Every dollar you buy, 50% you're buying is 50 cents you're getting on the dollar. You're buying cash, you know? So I think the enterprise value of the business is not getting any respect. And I get it, their margins are not the best, but
me.
if that starts accelerating, which we've seen it accelerate,
Mhm.
I think you can put a premium on the business. And when Howard Marks and Ray Dalio start buying it, Ray Dalio is like 5 million shares. The Howard Marks one was interesting because he's a credit investor. He doesn't invest in tech companies. So what for him to make the bet, I'm like, does he see the emerging market story? Does he see something else? But that's,
I
it's a,
would explore it more, and then we can chat further on, or we can communicate more on that. Two more questions before we go. Now, any particular investors you look up to, Amit?
yeah, I would say, the big inspiration for me is Stanley Druckenmiller. I think his ability to take risks and his ability to be humble and acknowledge when he's wrong and kind of navigate the philosophy of invest then investigate has always been really influential to me. And the big thing about Stanley Druckenmiller is like when he has an idea, he goes all in because he believes in the idea. So you either have the conviction or you don't, and you obviously have to risk manage. But I think he's been one of the most influential investors to me. I also have some personal friends that have taught me a lot about investing. I have one friend named Chris Patel who really gave me a lot of, and still gives me a lot of understanding of how to think about the world of investing. I have another friend named Stephen Fiorillo. He's a very seasoned investor. He helps me understand how to analyze companies. So
Mhm.
some personal motivations I have, but Stanley Druckenmiller is up there.
Stan Druckenmiller is the same guy who invested in Bitcoin and Amazon at the early stage. Is the same guy, or am I getting it
No,
wrong?
that's Tim Draper, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Druckenmiller invested in Nvidia in 2022. He's had a lot of good investments over his lifetime, but recently, he's made a decent chunk on Nvidia.
And any suggestions on any investing books?
I think The Intelligent Investor, that's kind of the basic one that everyone tends to read and tends to enjoy.
Uh,
Um, for me, it's I read less books. I listen to a lot of podcasts, so I think the information on YouTube is out there for everyone to find.
and how did you feel about Elon reposting your FST video?
That was pretty cool. I didn't expect. I got a lot of text messages that day. Yeah, I mean, I didn't do the video because I think he would repost it. I did the video because I did 5 hours of uh, self driving from one state to another state with zero interventions, and I was just like, I have to talk about this because it was just I don't even have a heavy position in Tesla stock. It's not even like I just couldn't believe the technology. I got my Tesla 7 months ago, so yeah, that was pretty cool that he
You're getting
reposted.
a lot of hate off late for that, writing something about Tesla.
So like it was funny because that video I posted, everyone hates you because they think, oh, you just love Elon, blah 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 blah. And then a week later, I put out a post that Tesla stock had fell to 270. I was like, hey, do people think that there's some issues with the fundamentals of the company, yada yada? And then you get hate from everyone else saying you're being so bearish about the stock. So it's like it's one of those things where it's like, well, I don't think I'm bearish or bullish. I'm just asking a regular question about Tesla. And when I post my video, it's not bearish or bullish. It's just, hey, I really love the experience. But the cult of Tesla to me is very interesting. And quite frankly, I think it informs the investment thesis. Like the more these retail communities get behind a stock and genuinely believe in it, like almost as a religion in terms of how they think of the company and the story, that is a moat that I think can't be undermined. And the cultish nature of that, I think, is something that we all have to think about, when we invest in new companies.
Okay. Any particular stock besides Grab which is interested? I think you talked about one medic insurance company today, I saw, which is again health
Oh,
insurance.
Oscar Health. Yeah, I did a
You're
deep dive
looking
on that
out
on my
for,
channel.
you're
Huh?
looking out for, you're looking out for that company, you're studying on that company. What's your view?
Not deeply. I mean, I'm really not interested in buying a lot of the names that are high flying right now. It's cheap, I think, from that perspective, but
Yeah.
I just not done enough research, that deep into it.
Okay, man. I'll leave you, man. Really, really great interview, and thank you so much for giving time. And wish you all the best. And we'll keep chatting, and I'll talk to you again.
I love it. Rajiv, thank you. Appreciate it.
Take care, buddy. Bye bye.